right. This is Saturday, and we are here again on our live podcast. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and other social media such as LinkedIn. And you can join us and share this video because we are here with a whole new story. Yakpaworo, a story of humility, focus, and patriotism. Welcome to the Gracious Hope Podcast, where we bring you inspiring stories of individuals in our society who embody humility, focus, and patriotism. Gracious Hope Podcast is a platform that promotes and preserves the Liberian Christian heritage. And that is why we are here every Saturday to present to you stories that will inspire you. And specifically today, we have the privilege of hosting Dr. Emmanuel Urey Yarkpawolo, a remarkable Liberian citizen whose life story is a testament to a lot of qualities: humility, focus, and patriotism. Now, Dr. Yarkpawolo's journey of life began with a humble beginning, raised by his aunt and father after the tragic loss of his mother at a young age, at 2 years old. Despite his challenges, he embraced his circumstances and honed his skills in farming, fishing, trap shooting, and palm oil production in the interior of Liberia, and to be specific, in one of the districts, I believe it's district number 4 in Gamoon, near the Guinean border of Bon County. His unwavering focus and determination propelled him from a small village of Gamoon district, number 4 in Bon County, to pursue higher education. Driven by a passion for environmental and resource conservation, he obtained a PhD in environmental and resources with an emphasis in political ecology from the prestigious University of Wisconsin-Madison in the USA. So then we see that Dr. Yarkpawolo's impact extends beyond the academia. He has actively participated in the political landscape of Liberia, serving as vice presidential candidate to Councillor Tiawan Ganglu of the Liberian People's Party in the last national election. And his commitment to his country and fellow Liberian citizens is evident, or it is testament to his unwavering patriotism. Now, today, we have the privilege of delving into the life lessons and principles that have shaped Dr. Yarkpawolo's Urey Yarkpawolo into the inspiring individual he is today. So please join us as we explore his remarkable life journey and discover how his humility, focus, and patriotism are making a difference in the lives of countless Liberians. Once again, we'd like to welcome you to the Gracious Hope Podcast. I'm Pastor Alexander Red, your host, and Pastor Suah S. Deddeh, our co-host, is joining me right now. And Reverend Deddeh, as he joins me here, we will be looking at this wonderful story of Dr. Urey Yarkpawolo. And joining us here, we ask that you share this link with your friends, your families, and your loved ones so that they can be a part of this podcast. We are honored to have all of you here today watching us. So please share this podcast with your friends or groups. Reverend Deddeh, we have Dr. Emmanuel Kwakabwe Urey Yarkpawolo.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We are glad to have our own brother, son of the soil, joining us today. And just for our viewers to be reminded, Councillor Tiawan Ganglu also appear on this program sometimes ago. And we are always glad to have our own talented, educated Liberians who have a lot to offer. And you're right, Dr. Yarkpawolo was born in Gamoon, which is the little small village near the Guinean border, according to you, district number 4. And interestingly, his daddy happened to be one of those first people who did something good in the village, you know. And his aunt, Yama Yarkpawolo, read him, like you said, and his father, Yarkpawolo Taylor, was one of the first persons to learn how to sew clothes in Bon County. This is historic. And Dr. Yarkpawolo learned how to to farm, to fish, to set traps. Can you imagine how to cut palm at a very early age? I can relate to that when I was in Bensonville. I had to learn how to climb the palm tree. My mom taught me how to do that, following other people. So I can relate to that background. So we are glad to have him today to share his upbringing with us. It's always good to go back to this humble beginning and see how they impact where we are today. So, yes, we look forward to the discussion, Alex. And how are you today, Alex?
Well, I'm doing great. Nice weather today in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm not sure about Maryland, Laura, Maryland, where you live, but we have a fantastic weather today, and we are grateful for that. What a day.
Yeah, it's got a little cold inside, but we are used to that now. We're not like your area, Minnesota and Wisconsin. You always have something cold going. Yeah, but we getting used to the cold so far. But we can handle that. That's wonderful.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is wonderful. All right. And to all our viewers, welcome you once again to the Gracious Hope podcast. And of course, our guest here today, uh, he is Dr. Emmanuel K. Urey Yarkpawolo. And it's a beautiful story here that we will be exploring. And without much ado, let's bring on our special guest, um, Dr. Urey Yarkpawolo. Welcome to the Gracious Hope podcast.
Welcome, brother.
Wonderful, wonderful. Both pastors, as an pastors, Suah, Deddeh. I'm very happy to join you and all the good work you do, not only for Liberia but actually around the world, informing people, highlighting the interface of culture, religion, etc. So I'm very happy to join you. From my home, actually, I do to all the viewers when there's one or two glitches. Internet is very challenging in Liberia. I try to get the best as possible, but I think we'll be able to conduct the show. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And looking at your life story, we're going through, your biography. It is amazing how you came from that little village, learned all the craft and everything, and then came to the United States, got your education, not just your doctorate degree, you did some other leadership programs too. And you work and you got the very understanding environment, all the resources. Now, Liberia is rich in resources, according to President Bwaka during his first speech at his church. He said we are blessed with a lot of natural resources, but his inclination is that it has been mismanaged. And so this is a time to restore trust in all of our institutions to see how those resources, especially when we look at the ecological aspect of our country, and you have learned how to navigate those resources to benefit the people. You know about farming, you know how to fish, you know how to hunt. You have a wealth of experience, and no wonder why Councillor Tewan Gonglo wanted you as his vice presidential candidate. So here, let us start from here from the beginning. When we characterize your life as a life of humility, focus, and patriotism, how can you explain that?
Well, so I think the three keywords are quite good. We can modify, we can even add persistence, and that comes from my instructor at the University of Wisconsin when he was told his experience with me, and he said if anything he learned from me is how persistent I can be if I want to achieve anything. How persistent. So humanity, in the sense that coming from a very humble background, as you said, born in a very small village, walk barefooted, mother passing away, second to the lives of 13 children from different mothers, six from one mother, some passed away during the war. Fast forward, starting school at the age of 14 years, learning how to speak English, learning how to read and write for the first time, father saying too old to go to school, going to blacksmith shop and leaving all of that, going back to schools, started school. Okay, 1981 born, and then started school 1995 for the first time. 2005 graduated from high school. By 2018, not only that I got a bachelor degree, but two master's degree and a doctor of philosophy from the University of Wisconsin, second best public university in the United States.
Mhm.
So that's for me that's humbling, and that's really humbling. But the other one, nationalism or patriotism, as you said, after acquiring all that education, I graduated in May, and by June, our own plane coming back to Liberia in 2018. Literally, I graduated May 18. By June 1, I was on plane coming back to Liberia. So it shows a greater level of nationalism, patriotism. How can we come and help Liberia has always been the question. And here, we try to help the situation. So I think the descriptions are good. We can always unpack them as much as possible. What are working to pass the land right law that affect more than 3 million Liberians in terms of having their access restored to land right, which they never had before. My research work, advocacy, and then working with civil society and the government to pass that type of land mass law to protect indigenous people' right to land and many other things. What are studying at college, what are picking a vocational program, from the vocational program to associate degree and now to bachelor degree, the Salvation Army Polytechnic, doing all that as a volunteer and not really earning any type of money for that matter, instilling discipline and integrity in that institution. So all that you will put together and then you'll be able to say yes in terms of humanity, nationalism, and etc.
Hmm.
That,
Yes.
yeah.
Wonderful. Wow. That's interesting. You learn from your dad and your aunt in a very early age that the purpose of life was to help others. And your father would often advise you to be honest in dealing with people, and especially not to worry about material things, but to appreciate what God has given you and the rest of that. So back to what you just explained. I'm looking for that intent in you leaving right after graduation. People talk about patriotism all they can, and they describe it in so many different ways. So how will you describe patriotism in your own words?
I think it's the act of selfless love that one can demonstrate to your country and your people. It is an act that is above yourself. It is an act where you take happiness in the achievement of other people. When you help the country in terms of making sure, different instance, an example. If we talk about Gomo, where I was born and did not have access to school until the age of 14, coming back to that village and the surrounding villages, putting them together and having a school there today, from ABC all the way to fourth grade now, having teachers there, paying those teachers every month, working with the villagers to actually lay road by hands so that vehicle can reach to that school. That is nationalism. That is patriotism. In the way that those kids are going to school and never had that opportunity, but through me, they can have access to school. That is something that is beyond. And until one thing about it very critically and be intentional about it, other people might not realize it so easily.
That's true. That's very true.
That's true. Hmm. And looking at your humble beginning, all that you saw for yourself, and starting school, and in that little village, and seeing the people and mingling yourself with people, and you got the opportunity to be educated and going back there to help as a whole, and also seeing yourself in the spotlight because you wanted to represent the people there, but then you had another calling from Tiawan Gonglu, Councillor Tiawan Gonglu, to be the vice presidential candidate. Now, describe to us, how was that moment for you, seeing you in the spotlight, and what was like your experience when it comes to politics, when it comes to love for your country, and also seeing the future of our homeland?
Pastor Red, thank you. A beautiful question. The question is, why would I want to get into politics in the first place? Why I wanted to represent my people before we get to consider Gonglo. I realized that to be able to make a really great impact in terms of decision making, good people need to get in politics. What we have seen in most of the time is that people who take risks, a lot of them very greedy people who take a lot of risks are the one that get into politics, win election, and at the end they just really make decisions to benefit themselves. So until we can get good people, and there is no country in the world that is developed today or is developing without serious national leadership. And serious national leadership has to be driven by serious minded people. So that's the reason why, in fact, I decided to run first as a representative to represent my people. And I started working with them since 2021. I was going to win that election, and eventually I got this call from this great man, Kasa Tiamase Gongo. For his calling, it became a kind of obligation for me to say that with this type of calling, I cannot say no. Because, I mean, I am in his likeness. I follow him very closely. I study him. I read his work, follow his advocacy. Somebody I admire. In fact, in the district, I told my people, I was not part of any political party, but I was going to vote for Councillor Tiawase Gonglo. So for that reason, he reaching to me, it became an obligation, a national calling that I could not say no to. So eventually we went back in the district, built consensus with our people, and in a very beautiful program, they passed me over to him to be his running mate. And we are very grateful. In fact, through him, we have got a lot of national attention. And so that's something we're very, very humble and grateful for as well.
Okay, and going back for some of our viewers who would like to understand who you are, the most people got to hear your name when you became the vice presidential candidate for our party with Councillor Gonglo. But looking at Gamoon, that small village, it is in District Number 4 in Bond County, and you are from Bond County. You are native of Bond County, and that little village is in, let's say, near the Guinean border. Now, when you were growing up and seeing life as a whole, learning from your aunt, learning from your father, and carving a way to look forward for you to stand up for yourself, what are some of the things that you saw for yourself that needed change and that needed your help in your own abilities, knowing that you have been instilled with the sense of helping other people, which of course is what Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, helping other people. And what did you see so far that were missing in those places? Did you feel that those people were not enjoying the resources that they should have, or the resources were not explored by the government? And some of the things that you observe for yourself, would that be some of the things that impelled you to run or to to represent the people? Or what are some of the things that you have observed so far in that part of the country in Bond County that are missing? Some of those things.
So, thing that I grew up seeing, unfortunately, they haven't changed that much, and that's very sad. Of course, we talk about school, right? School kids not having access to school. That's just one, and that's the reason why it will be until refugee as a refugee in Guinea before we start school. We have both school in Gomu, but many areas kids still don't have school today. But in addition to that, maternal mortality, mothers dying through childbirth is something that's selling my heart. And I saw that where you don't have motor roads and to put these women in Hammond to try to take them to a nearby clinic, and some of them die along the way. We haven't seen much improvement up to today's date. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to go to medical school. My first degree is in pre-medical biology, but it's just like at some point I could not stand working in a hospital because I'm very allergic to seeing blood, and so I have to pivot to do public health and eventually do environmental science and still working with rural people. So those things, what are maternal mortality, lack of sanitation in terms of water system, where you don't have people still drinking in creeks today in modern Liberia. We see those things, and so yes, these are some of the things that encouraged me to try to get into politics because again, who appropriate the national budget? Politicians. Who set the rules? Politicians. Who levy taxes? Politicians. These are people who are elected or are appointed in government, and the decision they make it affects so many people. And until we can get to that point where we have the requisite people with the experience and the heart to work for the people, I guess those things will continue even in the future.
Yes, yes. And growing up and seeing all of those things, Reverend Daddy, I know you agree with me. It kind of instilled in a young person's mind that I can do better for my people, and I can stand up for my people because I love my country and I love my environment or my community, and that's patriotism. Reverend Daddy?
Yes, certainly. I'm thinking here, all these years gone by now, and you still see the same things that you saw when you were growing up in your youth and your adolescence age. I'm wondering, what would you say is the contributing factors that has caused these things to still be prevailing even after all of these years? What could be the contributing factors? And my next question, as you think about that, I know you have better faith in the rest of that. What has kept you strong up to this time from where your humble beginning up to this point? What keeps you going? I know patriotism is one aspect of that, but besides that, has your faith contributed to your insistence to make the difference?
So let me get to that second question before the first one, the faith. Faith is very important. And if anybody watching out today, you don't have faith, you don't believe in Jesus, I'm telling you, you need to do that. There are just some things that are just beyond you. You cannot handle yourself. Just a lot of human activities that you can. You need a higher order kind of belief system. So when you are in problem, you can be able to revert to that particular higher order system. In the case of us Christian, ours Jesus Christ and God, His this is important because in 1990, one of our brothers had gone to the village, Gomo, who was a pastor in one of the Asian churches. His name is John Marva. John is the one that taught us Christianity in the village, and he told us that the name Emmanuel, mean God is with us. And so, knowing the meaning that God is with us, Emmanuel, when I started school, I gave myself that name. God is with us. And since then, God has been with me throughout. God has never let me down. And even at that very early age, He also taught us that things like drinking alcohol and things were not good. So I also decided not to drink alcohol, and I have lived by that from the age of almost 9 or 10 up to this point. I don't drink alcohol. So just developing a principle like that and sticking to it. So whenever I have problems, I go to God in prayer, and God answers my prayer all the time. I can give more than 5 instances right now where I have been in problem and I pray and God has answered my prayer. So part of it that have kept me is faith. And I'm encouraging everyone. If you don't have one, try to find one because it's going to help you in this world and the life to come beyond.
Yeah, and talking about that, you were given the Pele name, Kwakebwe, which means in Pele, let us be in English, which means let us be here. And you changed that name from Kwakebwe to Emmanuel, which of course it has a Christian value to it. God with us, or God will provide. And looking at yourself in the realm of Christianity, your principles and your values that you learn from your parents and up to now, which of course impel you or makes you to be who you are today, and looking at life as a whole, reaching out to other people and making the life better for the community and everyone else as a whole. You believe in justice, you believe in equity, you believe in peace, and you have seen the tumultuous times our country, Liberia, has been through. Now, if you look at our community today, that is our Christian community today, and looking at your
Alex,
own
will he
place.
respond to the first question, because we need to know what he sees that caused this situation to still be prevailing in his county after all these years. That was the first question. Let him
Okay,
respond to that.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
That's
Oh,
fine.
yes. Sorry. The problems are many. You can get point to one. You
yeah.
point to a long civil war that destroy not just the infrastructure but the
Mm,
value system of the country, wherein now is government that everyone relies upon, and people don't want to take self-initiative. Um, but I mean, we can categorize everything into one big word or two. We say bad governance. It has been bad governance from the beginning. It's still, unfortunately, bad governance up to this point. But there are many things in between. A society that sometimes the hair is upside down so sadly. One day, one of my bosses were riding a car together, and we're around the Catholic Junction, and you see people driving along the opposite lane, and people driving along the sidewalk where people supposed to be. So he told me, he said, "Amen." I said, "Yes." He said, "The way you see this traffic, how the whole country is running." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "We who in the line, it will be difficult for us to reach. Those who are really violating the rules, driving on the opposite, they're going to reach, and nothing going to happen to us. We who want to drive, follow the rules, it'll be difficult for us to reach." Just watch my words. Liberia, unfortunately, has taken that type of turn wherein sometimes a wrong behavior has become so much normalized, and that it seems to be that it doesn't have a problem until we can get to a point wherein we're able to fundamentally change those kind of behavior, especially instill discipline in the younger generation that are coming up. It'll be difficult for us to live ourselves out of poverty.
Yes, and that's true. You talk about a young generation, and of course, the adults will have to an example. And we have seen our country going through tumultuous times. If you look at our history, we can't get along, and we see the prevailing circumstances of crime rate high. Young people are not doing anything, and if you view yourself and look at yourself, how initially you never had an opportunity, that is a privilege, like to go to a much to get a to gain a much higher education, but later on it came. But growing up and looking at young people today and looking at our culture as a whole, we all might agree or may agree that there needs to be a change. We should have a culture where the young people can be nurtured into understanding the values that we all espoused as fellow believers in Christ. That is the value, virtue of love, virtue of compassion, the virtue of patriotism, loving your country, putting your country first, put God first, and your country, and seek the interest or welfare of other people. But and we'll talk more about that, but we want to take a break right now. And if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope Live Podcast. My name is Pastor Alexander Red, along with our host here, um, Reverend Suah S. Deddeh, and we'll be right back. Please don't forget to click that share button and also make a comments like some of you are doing right now. If you have questions, you can also post that as well to Dr. Urey Yarkpawolo, our special guest, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. And you can find us every time on our website. If you want to go to listen to some of the episodes of our podcast, you can go to graciousHopeFellowship.com. That is our website. Click on podcast, and you will see all of the previous episodes of our program. And our platform is all about promoting and preserving the Liberian Christian heritage. We bring out stories, inspiring stories like this remarkable one with our fellow citizen, of course, Dr. Urey Yarkpawolo. And you can opine, give your remarks or any other comments or questions. Just send it through with our link below. That space they just write, and of course we will be able to read that out as well. So let us look at the culture as a whole, looking at you as a family member, and looking at your family. You got a family, you got kids, and we'll talk about that later. What culture you see right now in our country, and based on your faith and your principles and values that you live by, how do you think if anything is wrong for our culture, we can change that?
So I think one of my favorite quotes coming from Marcus Garvey is said, people without the knowledge of their history and culture is like a tree without a root. So if you have a people, they don't know their history, they don't know their culture, they are like a tree without a root. If a tree doesn't have a root, it's not going to stand up to survive as a tree. So I think is we can talk about the negative, like I highlighted previously, but we can also talk about the positive in terms of what this country has achieved, what the country itself. I wrote a paper which I titled Liberia, look at Liberian history as a surviving state. Surviving state will twist and turns up and down, but also a state with a social history to stand when black people were considered to be inferior and lack of self-governance. This country rise up and it stood up and it's still standing today. It began the beacon of hope for the redemption of Africa from the 1950s all the way to the 1970s when African countries were gaining independence. So both positive stories are there. What are our contribution to the establishment of the African Development Bank? Or talk about Simon Morris, a crew guy from Grand Judah, not Grand Judah, but Grand Crew, who at Taylor University in Indiana, there is a monument there. He is honored. Somebody who actually came from Liberia and carried Christianity in the United States. Samuel Morris, Prince Cabo. Google his name. You're going to read more about him. So there are a lot that we can talk about. In the word of days, check this website, liberianhistory.org. Liberianhistory.org is a historical website that I helped to develop with the University of Wisconsin and another university, liberianhistory.org. When you get there, you're going to see all kinds of material, liberianhistory.org. Or you go to the archive today, you go to the museum. We have also curation in terms of some of the historical stuff in Liberia. It's important to catalog all this together. I think for us to really come together and start to build a consciousness, we gotta do that through the art and the culture. And of course, then we can be able to lay on top of that the Christian faith in terms of instilling moral values. Let me stop here before I keep going. Professor Sutton.
That is so wonderful. I like that because we have to know where we are from to know where we want to go. Because if you don't know where you're from, your destiny will be lost because you have no intent and purpose of where you really want to go because you don't know your origins, your beginning. So that is a very strong statement. But I want to come back to politics a little bit. You have good words for Councillor Tiawa Gonglo. Alex and I also are the same. We have good words for him. He was one of those lawyers who provided free legal services to media when we were working in the press union at the leadership level, and so we know his credibility and his intention for Liberia. But you campaigned with him for a few months and the rest of that. What did you really learn on that campaign trail? Because uh, politics has its own animal to a large extent because things come at you that you don't expect at certain times. So would you mind sharing with us what you learned? I see you have your broom there. Wonderful, yes. Would you mind sharing with us what you learned on this campaign trail with that broom in your hand, ready to sweep? What are some of the things you learned that are good for you and things that you said to yourself, this one is not good for me, that you want to share with other people
So
today?
yeah, he is very, very inspirational. Kazagongo is very, very selfless, extremely selfless. He's all about Liberia and how these countries can change for the better. That all is about. I learned I follow a man who is extremely strong, somebody who is 67 years, but learns some swimming technique. He can actually float on top of water for about an hour or so. Somebody who never gets tired, just very, very, very strong, but like to look at life in its simplistic form. Somebody who does not have time for material things. Somebody who has high level of moral integrity and who never will shy away from expressing his view, despite how people would think about it. When he thinks he's right, he's going to stand for it. And so the other thing I learned is this broom, right? So he's the carrier of this broom. So he's broom number one and broom number two. So normally, symbolically, when we are together, his broom is bigger than mine. Intentionally, I say my broom cannot be like your broom. Your broom got to be in size, bigger, longer. My broom smaller because you are my mentor. So the issue about fighting corruption, he's very serious about it, and we are very, very serious about it. Until we can get corruption under control, it's very difficult for us to move. Take for instance, if you have a bucket of water, a bucket, and then this bucket here, every survivor is on that bucket, and the water that in there is supposed to serve everybody. And what a school, what a hospital, what a building roads, everything is that water in that bucket. But what corruption does is that it put a hold on that bucket, and so that water is leaking. So even we carry the budget to $1 billion to $2 billion, as long as that bucket is leaking, you're not going to have enough water there for everybody. You're not going to have enough water there to be able to carry on the development. That's the essence of the bloom. So the bloom, and many of the time when we make ambassador the president now, we see over our broom. So your brother broom again? We say yes, we're here with the broom because we have helped your presidency to win. So all the time we come in, we bring the broom to show you that this corruption thing here, that's number one thing we care about. It has to be under control. But I learned many things, and in fact, I speak to him every day, maybe one or two or three times a day. Because Gongo saying he slated me as a running mate Saint June. We talk every day. Today we spoke twice. So that's how close we are.
That's wonderful. Before Ellis come, Ellis, before you come in, please, I don't want to forget. I don't want to really forget this. In terms of this corruption thing, do you think corruption can be eradicated in Liberia or minimized?
You set a goal for you to achieve eradication. I don't think corruption is eradicated in any part of the world. I don't think it's eradicated. It is at a point where it's minimized in the way that it does not get in front of development, that the corruption does not actually undermine the development of the country. That's the point you want to get at. You want to minimize it in the way that it's not really interfering with road construction. It's not interfering with building hospitals and getting sanitation for the country, making sure kids are going to school. You get good university school system. It's not. It's not affecting that. That's the level you want to go.
Yeah.
And those who want to undermine that, they are brought to book and they are penalized. That's the goal here, and that's the essence of the boom.
Yeah, and to accomplish that or to achieve that, we must have a revitalized justice system as a whole, a justice system that beholds the virtue of integrity, equity, or equitable way of treating people, and making sure that it is fair for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a bishop or whether you are a loaded person in society. And a lot of people still have mistrust when it comes to our justice system. In order to fight or combat corruption, we'll have a very good justice system that can hold public officials accountable. Not just when they're accountable, but when they are guilty before the law, they should be put somewhere that they will pay back to society for what they have done. And that is an area that I believe that all Liberians should make every effort to revitalize, to rehab the entire system of our justice system, the system of our justice. And so, if that is an area that we can work on to make a judiciary branch of government strong or stronger. Yes, people might see that as a deterrence to engage in rampant, as we know that word is very popular, rampant corruption. But I'm glad that you say that once corrupt acts do not interrupt or do not take away some of the main projects that we are to be engaging as a country, like the road network, our educational system, health system, and every other function of society that will be vital to a vibrant society, then of course we can see that will be a sign or indication that corruption is to a lower level. Even in the United States, we see people here all the time going to jail or going before the justice system because of corruption. So corruption will be there. But at the same time, if it is minimized and we have an effective or efficient system of government running, where funds will be allocated and they can actually see tangible results, then we know that we are, moving above corruption or selfish interest or self-centeredness to a place where we are patriotic, love our country, put our country first, and its interests of the people that we represent. Now, to you personally, you have a very beautiful family here, your wife, your kids. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about your kids and your wife? Anything that we need to know, and what are they doing in school? I mean, what are they aspiring to be?
Yeah, so yes, and I think the one that really take the lion's share, everyone focus on me, but I think the focus should be on Vivian there, my wife, who really is a backup to everything we do here. A lot of time is taken away from this girl, and then she's very patient minded. So everyone is doing okay. Bobby, the bright one here on the left side here, he's in the U.S. military. He's somewhere there in Seattle. He joined the military. Joseph is staying in medicine. He is in medicine college. The rest of the family are actually here. Laurie, with the glasses up there, he's in the 12th grade now. Here, Ime is in the 7th grade. Yama is in the 1st grade. They are all here in Liberia with me. Only the two boys are in the States currently. But I'm very grateful to them. I'm very, very happy, very, very humble that God able to help me with these beautiful people, and He has helped to take care of them through ups and downs. Being a student, I had other than when I was still a student. But God helped me to make sure that with the help of Vivian, everyone is doing very well, and we're very, very, very happy to have them.
Yes, being happy and have a family, that's good. And this is how, the Liberian nuclear family should be, right? We want to see a leader, you're in charge of your family, and you can be a representation of what it
Hmm.
means to live in a Liberia where war took place and devastated family life as a whole. So we see the disintegration of families. People, they have a lot of kids who don't have parents today. We have a lot of kids who are engaged in crime. We have a lot of kids who are not working, and some of them looking for the opportunity. But you as a leader, they can see the reflection of what it means to be in a nuclear family and grow up in an environment that will be enabling for everyone, even though the government should provide that enabling environment for the citizens to live, for that protection and offering jobs, and also creating that atmosphere where businesses will come and help people, and then they can also create the educational system and all of that. But from your own perspective so far, looking at your life, looking at your travels into other countries, your education, Western education, and looking at our country now, what are some of the things that, I know corruption is one thing, but what are some other areas based on your own understanding of your studies in ecology, political ecology, and looking at our country right now with a new president, how do you see our future and what needs to be done in order for us to have a vibrant society, or for us to, walk up the ladder at least a little bit?
So the thing about Liberia is that it is a truly a blessed country. As far as I'm concerned, the resources of the country has not been depleted. We still have a good number of deposits of gold, iron ore, and other minerals. Liberia still holds about more than 40% of what is called the West African forest, Guinean forest belt, a forest that stretches from Nigeria all the way to Sierra Leone in time past. Liberia has more than 40% of that forest standing right now. Um, there used to be, I need to check it out, but there used to be a 25%, 25 biodiversity hotspots in the world, and Liberia is home to one. What I'm saying is that everything that God can help a country for that country to lift its people out of poverty, Liberia has it. Liberia has good sunshine. Liberia has good rainfall. So we're not a desert country, nothing like that. Everything that God can bless a country with for that country to be prosperous, Liberia has it. So that's a good news right there. So we are looking forward to the leadership that will come into play to be able to help the exploit the resources for the benefit of the country. And part of it, a greater responsibility sits on the president's head. Even you are talking about a justice system. I totally agree with you. But it has come to a point where power has gravitated towards the presidency. Let me just show you a few examples. When Mr. Weah was in power, he started using this Nigerian suit called Propo. And all of us started using the Propo suit. Fast forward quite recently, President Joseph Boakai had talked about he and his vice president taking drug tests. Well, at the Senate, I've been listening to the various confirmation hearing. Senators and lawmakers are talking about taking drug tests. So you can see that whenever the president set the tunes, it seems to be that people follow. When President-elect Joe Boakai talked about Monrovia was dirty, Monrovia needed to be clean, we saw a group of volunteers that clean the city. Today, I attended one of the closing of the program today, somewhere there, ELW Junction. So again, we're looking forward to the leadership, to the able leadership that will be able to move this country forward. But Liberia can be a very good place for tourism, one of the best areas, more than about 350 miles coastline. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful areas. I've been to because I'm a researcher. I travel all over Liberia, and I know that this country is really beautiful. It's just the leadership, but the students themselves, the students need to study. The students need to study. The students need to not make the politics to be the primary thing. Let politics being the secondary. Getting good education in the way that you are globally competitive is very important. And we see some of those are lacking in some of the students. So the young people, when I speak to them, I try to inspire them to see that the brain that God gave them is so powerful. They can need to use it for the benefit of themselves and their family and their country. So all those when we put together, Liberia still has a bright future. That's why I'm here. We'll be here and we'll fix it. And that's the reason why I'm here.
The issue of corruption, Dr. Yarkpawolo, is so resounding in the Liberian, I would say, lifestyle, and you gave your own reasons and an analogy about how if corruption does not overtake development, then it could be okay. I just received a text from someone to ask the question. So, are you saying you will accept corruption if development is going on, or will you tolerate corruption? I don't think that's what you're saying, but you need to provide clarity on that on this program so people don't take it from the other point that they are hearing already from you.
So corruption, whether big or small, is unacceptable. Corruption is a bad behavior, no matter how tiny, no matter how big it is. So corruption is unacceptable. I'll respond to the question of eradicating corruption. Is it really possible to eradicate? And I say no country has been successful in the world by eradicating corruption. It still goes on. But what happened is that at the point wherein it does not interfere with the development of the country, and people who are doing it are routinely caught and are punished by the law. So corruption is unacceptable. So we're not saying, oh, bring corruption down here, then it's okay. No, corruption, what a police officer in the street corrupt a taxi driver, and what if somebody who work in the president's office or a minister try to take brown envelopes, or what are lawmakers are taking money to influence their decision, the 100% bad. So I cannot support and will not tolerate anything of that nature. Only responding to the question whether it's possible to eradicate corruption.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's clear. Before Ellis will soon be closing, I think Ellis will take it from there. Oh, still have some few hours. Not hours, few minutes. The trending issue now in Liberia, especially after the president's speech, is these war crimes. And maybe you might not want to comment on that, or maybe you have your opinion on that. What would be your opinion on the war crime establishment in Liberia, the war crime court?
So I think that's something. The question is, have we been able to bring our war to a closure? We analyze it from that point. Have we been able to close this chapter of the war in our lives? I have personally tried it, and I'm a researcher in the state and in Liberia and around the world. When you start to question Liberians about their experience of the war, it's really difficult to hit 15 minutes in a lecture without seeing some form of tears coming from that person's eye. So it means that there's still a lot of grief, but they are embedded. So we are not there yet. We haven't been able to heal this country. We have not been
Mhm.
able to memorialize this war. Areas that massacre place, we haven't been able to research, at least carve their name and put it there. So during Memorial Day, Decoration Day, their families can go there and sit there and cry. That they are grieved. We haven't been able to achieve any of these things. How can we think that reconciliation will take place? Again, that's one of the things that really get me frustrated about this country. No country has gone in a period of history with this type of thing. The thing they get going to brush it, oh, everything is okay and move on. No, it's not
No.
like that. It doesn't take place like that. It never. All the countries that are going through troubled times in the world, all the places that have been, whether in Tanzania, whether in the United States, whether in Germany, other places, you go there, you go to that museum, you go and see the history. It's a place of
Yes.
healing, a place of teaching. We haven't done any of that. And then we just want to say, oh, let's go ahead. No. The war, they normally combine both war and economic crimes court, but we can unpack them. But sometimes a lot of Liberians don't even understand what it means by war crimes court. Those who will go to that court when it is established are people who committed war crime. What are war crimes? Okay, you're fighting the war, killing your enemy is not a problem, but you left and started killing innocent people. And why you went to the Lutheran church, people was seeking refuge, and you went and started killing them. What are you went and start to indiscriminately kill people? That's
Hmm.
war crime, and you should be able to face the weight of the law. There's no question about it. And those who have gone to work and started stealing major money and getting the people impoverished, in one of my speeches, I charged them. I said, blood is on their hands. Because the money they're stealing is that the reason why mothers are dying. And because of that, I charged them for killing and said, blood is on their hands. And so if you have to kill, you should go for it.
Yes, and I agree with you, Dr. Yakpawolo. When it comes to reconciliation, we need reconciliation. We need to heal the wounds. I know there was a reconciliation committee, Truth and Reconciliation Committee commission, established, and they came up with that report, their findings, and it didn't go anywhere. Maybe because politicians didn't have the political will to follow through. I understand there were recommendations for prosecution. However, I believe that even this new administration should also focus on reconciliation, healing the wounds, reconciling people in every county, because everyone has a story. Everyone has some story of hurt for their families, and they need some sort of how would I say, recompense. And if no healing, and if people are at war in our hearts, for peace and to be restored to our land, it's going to be something that will be very challenging. And so for me, I strongly believe that we need to have that whole mindset of reconciliation, and we can do that pretty much by maybe organizing people in various counties where they can tell their stories. And I know it's going to rehash that old memory, but they need to get things out. And we can also do that through the arts, like like theatrical plays, where focus will be on reconciliation, how to reconcile, how to avoid conflict, how to resolve conflict. The young people need to understand, especially those who grew up during the war and participated in the war, they don't know how to resolve conflict. They only go by violence. They only do violence or respond in violence, a harsh way of responding. And that manner of approach can be very, very, very demeaning and indecent. And so we have this whole culture that is still going down the drain, instead of being infused or instilled with some of the Christian values and principles that we know our country to be characterized by. And so then, looking at our country in the future and this administration and you, I don't know what role will you play in the future, because you haven't been called on yet to participate in this government. What is your take on these things that I just talked about?
Well, they are all in place. I think we cannot brush over the war. We have not brought our war to a full closure, and we need to do that. And everything you said is contributing towards it. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was set up and worked for 2 years. They produced a report. That report need to be implemented. The report of the TRC, they are fact-based report. They didn't just take the report anyway and put it and just put it in the report. But based upon testimonials around the country, the history of the country, everything I just talked about, and everything you mentioned about, they are in the TRC. But for some reason, some politicians, they don't want to give credence to that. And it's bad, right? We cannot move as a country in this manner that everything just would brush over it, everything just impunity will go ahead. No. What will cause us not to get into another civil war in the future? We got to set precedent now so that even those who are born today who don't know about war, but they can learn about war and what their parents and went through. So if anybody trying to get a gun in the future, they will refuse. So that has to be remembered. As it stands, we haven't been able to achieve that. And that's sad. I hope one day we'll be able to get to that.
Dr. Yarkpa, I really want to follow up on that thing, but I think I will pivot to something else that I really need to hear your view on. And this has to do with the drug situation in our country. And then the disadvantaged youth, I hate to call them Zogo, are also in the picture. So what is your take on this fight against drug in our country? You mentioned the president doing drug tests, and everybody want to do drug tests, especially the legislature. How can we deal with the issue of drugs in our country, Dr. Yarkpa?
I think again, a good question. I work with some of them personally. I actually work with quote unquote Zogo disadvantaged youth, not other than that youth. A lot of them are grown up men, and I documented them. I wrote their stories. Why you came to the street, why you got you here. I got to know that some of them are professionals people. They are truck drivers, they are mechanics, but they started to take the drug, and the drug pulled them away from their profession and made them useless. And so
Wow.
that's the experiment I was doing. So I have worked with a lot of them. And a colleague of mine, Bob Johnson, is also working with a lot of them right now, trying to carry on some psychosocial awareness and try to rehabilitate them. I think that is going well. I think the president has already declared war on drugs, so which is a good thing, because what we need to do is we need to tie. tie the boat on where the drugs are coming from. It need to be tied seriously. And it's not too difficult to do that. Because a lot of the drugs that were coming through the airport in the past, just in the airport, and simply because other people in government were benefiting. We hope that we don't see repeat of that type of attitude now, even on the borders. So let's try to minimize the importation of drugs in our country as the first place. If we start to do that, and then we can be able to rehabilitate those that are on the drugs. And eventually, if we can improve on agriculture and improve on vocational training programs. In fact, the project I was carrying on, which I think I was taking on at some point, was I was trying to see two things I was trying to find out. Can these people actually change in their environment without taking them to a specialized home? That one experiment. But then I realized a lot of them are already professionals. So my take was to be able to get a specialized vocational programs. Those who among them who are already professionals, we use them as trainers, and they'll be able to train their colleagues. And I think they will respond very fast because they all speak the same language. So I think Senator Darrell Dillon have been doing similar work as well. So now that President Bouakai and his vice president, they're taking it very seriously. They have appointed this gentleman, Evie Kroma, as the DEA person. When he was serving as deputy police commander, he did some reform in Monrovia. So we're hoping that those will all come together and we'll get a drug situation under control. But it's a bad thing and very disgraceful. It does not give hope for the country the way the trend has been going up.
Yeah, time is
Yes.
up, so I'll give you the Ellis because we're running out of time already.
Yes, we all the time already, but we love your story, and of course, your journey of life has been very remarkable. Humble beginnings, raised by your aunt and your father after the tragic loss of your mother, and you grew up knowing that some of the values that were instilled in you to also look out for other people's interests, not just your own interests, and the circumstances and the way you hone your skills in farming, fishing, traps, shooting, palm oil production in our interior part of the country, and then finding the opportunity to be educated in the United States. Now you're going back home, which is a humongous sacrifice for any Liberian to do. I know some Liberians been going back home, but all of you out there, Liberians that are out there from the United States or other Western countries, educated, going back home to contribute what you've learned, your talents, your gifts, and your abilities to the country is what we need. And we all strive for transparency. We want corruption to be to a minimum and to put the development and reconstruction of the country first and exercise our faith in the process. We want to be honest. We want to work with integrity. And these are virtues that Dr. Urey Yarkpawolo is pointing out. Our country is blessed with a lot of resources, but how can we harness our efforts together and contribute to society? And that is the patriotism, that is the focus, and that is doing so with grace and honesty and also humility. Dr. Urey Yarkpawolo, would like to thank you so much to you and your family for giving us this privilege on this platform to tell the Liberian people about yourself and your way forward for the future. And your last word will be, if you have any future ambition, what would that be for our country?
So I think we are here to serve, and then service in all kinds of ways. What are in the NGO sector, what are in the private sector, what are in government, we will continue to serve. I think those of us who are leaders, you look for opportunity to serve your people. It's not about position, because those who look for position are the one that are looking for the power. But whatsoever, I found myself even at a house here, at my own house, or around my neighbors, continue to serve, and will continue to do that. And whenever the opportunity comes in any shape or form, we'll be able to do that. But the Liberian people should understand that the broom is here to stay, because it's very, very important to keep this handy. Because until we can get all this and instill discipline in this country, it'll be difficult for us to move forward. So I want to say thank you to you both for inviting me on your platform tonight, and I'm willing in the future to come again. I want to say thank you to Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, who might be watching right now, who who went down and saw who I am to be able to or to share a spotlight on me. I'm very grateful. The room is here to stay. Thank you. We pray that God will be with you, God will be with Liberia, and will bless us and save our country and bless the leadership of this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And that is the
Thank you,
voice of
sir.
our guest, our special guest, Dr. Emmanuel K. Urey Yarkpawolo. And of course, he is um, contributing to see our country become vibrant. And this is how we end this segment of our program today. That is a Gracious Hope podcast. Faith and Culture, Yakpaglo, a Liberian story of humility, focus, and patriotism. Please share this video with your friends, families, and relatives so that they can be a part of this program as a whole. And don't forget, we have our a new book up here, which of course is a new book that I wrote, and it's about patriotism, and it has to do with cultivating Liberia's national pride. How do you love your country, and what love can you show? How can you show that love with all the hearing about corruption and all of that? What can you do? This book is already on Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble, bn.com. You can purchase a copy. It is not that expensive. You want to get an electronic copy right now on your phone or your iPad, it's only $9.99. If you want to get the soft cover, it's a paper cover, it is $19.99, and the hardcover is $24.99. And so it is available on Amazon. Learn about your country, learn about how we can restore trust in government, and how leaders are to step up to be role models for the young people, and what the young people can do and what we can do to cultivate an atmosphere or environment so that they can be future leaders that will determine the course of our country to be vibrant. And so it's a book here, new book, Cultivating Liberia's National Pride, Love of Country. And this is from my own lens as a former journalist in Liberia, covering a lot and learning a lot, been through the Civil War, coming to the United States and educated at the same university with Dr. Urey Yarkpawolo, the University of Wisconsin. And for my own profession as a counseling psychologist, there's a lot that I put in there in this book to help you understand your history, that is the Liberian history, the causes of our war, and everything else that will make our country vibrant. So get a copy on Amazon.com. And of course, this is how we leave you today. And it was a pleasure talking with you and Dr. Yarkpawolo, and also Reverend Suah as Deddeh. Until then, we'll be back here again next Saturday, the same time. Please join us. Bye for now.